My husband is a billionaire, and he suffers from chronic insomnia. The only way he can sleep is with the scented sachets I make. During our 7th wedding anniversary party, his old friend, Sarah Moore, poured a pot of hot water over the camphor tree in our backyard. Tears welled up in my eyes as I rushed outside to save the tree. Sarah fell to her knees, begging for forgiveness. I didn't know you used the leaves from this tree to make the sachets, I'm so sorry. Because of that incident, my husband and I fell into a cold war. 7 days later, Ethan Lawson finally came home. The dark circles under his eyes were painfully obvious. It seems like you haven't made new sachets in a while, he said. Ethan's insomnia had become severe. In the past, he could only fall asleep with the sachets I made from the camphor leaves. I was distractedly scrolling through my phone and lazily replied, "Yeah, I've been slacking." The truth was, I had grown tired. The only source for the leaves was the tree behind our old house, far out of town. Every week, I had to spend half a day traveling back and forth just to gather them, which always left me exhausted. Sarah didn't mean any harm, Ethan continued. But if you keep making a big deal out of this, you're taking it too far. As he spoke, he pulled a bottle of fruit wine from the refrigerator and poured himself a drink. During these Cold War days, the wine Sarah had brought over became his new attempt to improve his sleep. He dropped some ice into his glass and glanced at me. How could Sarah possibly know that tree mattered to you? To make it up to you, she found an herb farm, and I've already had it purchased. It'll be under your name. Let's call this matter settled. I almost laughed. Using marital assets to buy a farm, apologizing on behalf of his secretary friend, what a considerate husband I had. I thought this bitterly, though my lips still spoke with polite courtesy. Fine then, please thank Mrs. Lawson for me. For the first time since coming home, Ethan's expression shifted. His eyes burned with irritation. Besides jealousy, what else are you even capable of? I met his gaze calmly. I'm also capable of divorce. If you have the time to go farm shopping with your little friend, why not sign the divorce papers quickly instead? 7 days dragged on with just one missing signature. That wasn't the decisive style of the great Mr. Lawson. Ethan stared at me for a few moments, then lost all interest in talking, dropping onto the sofa with his phone. Every now and then, his brows furrowed as if he were working. But I had already seen him flirting with Sarah on social media. You look beautiful today. Was it because you knew I was inviting you to dinner tonight? Don't flatter yourself, she teased. Obviously I dressed up because of someone else, not you. The flirty messages and confessions glowing on his phone screen, paired with the silence of the room, told me once again that divorce was the only right choice. I lowered my head and wiped the corner of my eyes. In the past, crying and begging in front of him would have been my only option. But now, for a marriage that was already dead, I no longer needed to humiliate myself. Did you upset Mom again? The man finally decided to speak to me, prompted by a reminder that came straight from Sarah Moore. A few days from now, Sarah will be traveling with Mom. Learn to eat properly, behave, and respect her. Only when you can act like Sarah will you be considered obedient. I burst out laughing. Haven't I already been obedient enough by preparing to give up the title of Mrs. Lawson to her? Ethan Lawson's dark eyes carried a sharp threat. Emily Carter, is throwing tantrums your only skill? At last, I stood up, abandoning this final attempt at conversation with my husband. Maybe so. Oh, by the way, since you're too busy to sign the divorce papers, I've already asked my lawyer to file for divorce. Don't worry, I'll cover all the expenses. I had contacted my attorney the very day after the family banquet. During that event, Sarah had poured boiling water directly onto the camphor tree right in front of me. Her eyes were full of provocation as she sneered. Let's see if he still needs you without those sachets. Every day, Ethan only carried the scented sachets I made, and Sarah had always been jealous of that fact. Desperate to save the tree, I accidentally shoved her aside. Unfortunately, Ethan saw it. He immediately dragged me over, tied me to the camphor tree, and left me there all night. No matter how much I screamed and cried, he gave me only one cold sentence. Reflect on yourself. Then he turned and walked away, his arm around his secretary. I struggled until midnight, my hands swollen, bruised purple and trembling in agony. The camphor tree seemed to sense my despair, and one of its large branches broke. Clinging to my last bit of hope, I called Ethan. The moment the call connected, his icy voice cut through the line. Emily Carter, hasn't the lesson I gave you been enough? Today you frightened Sarah, so I have to stay by her side. As long as you're not dead, don't bother me. In the background, I heard Sarah's coy, playful tone. Ethan, it's your turn to shower. Shaking, I hung up the phone, collapsing to the ground as my tears soaked the earth beneath me. In the end, I called my lawyer. The next day, in the living room, Ethan still looked at me like I was beyond comprehension. Emily Carter, what happened yesterday? You have only yourself to blame. I laughed through my tears. You're right. I can only blame myself. I knew ending up like this was something I had brought upon myself. Ethan Lawson and I first met during a kidnapping. He had been locked in a dark warehouse, beaten and left for dead, when my father rescued him and brought him home. When he was freed, his body was covered in wounds, and my father asked me to take care of him. Slowly, we grew close. Even after Ethan returned to the Lawson family estate, we kept in touch. Perhaps because of post-traumatic stress disorder, his insomnia began then, and no treatment ever seemed to work. He told me that every time he closed his eyes, he was back in that dark warehouse, suffocated by the stench, trapped in the pitch-black void, alone, without me. Hearing that tore at my heart, but I had no way to help. Until one day, when he came to visit my father and accidentally fell asleep under the camphor tree in our backyard. That was the first time he had a peaceful night's sleep. From then on, I began making scented sachets from the camphor leaves and sending them to him. He carried one with him every day, and his insomnia slowly eased. Later, so that I could always prepare fresh sachets for him, I gave up my chance to study abroad and instead chose the art department at his university. At graduation, he held my hand, scarred with pinpricks from the needles, and tears filled his eyes. "These are the hands that healed me," he whispered. After he entered the business world, to help his company expand into new markets, I set aside my paintbrushes to accompany him to countless social events. We complemented each other perfectly, quickly helping his business establish a firm footing. One night, after drinking too much, he grabbed my hand and muttered, "This is the hand that pulled me out of the darkness. I want to hold it for the rest of my life." His face flushed red, his eyes shining like stars. I instinctively nodded. That night, we made a lifelong promise to each other. But now, the very hand that brought him back to life has been destroyed by him. On the night of that family banquet, after everything, my lawyer had to rush me straight to the hospital. The doctor delivered a devastating verdict: the nerves in my hand were severely damaged. I might never be able to hold a paintbrush again. My lawyer advised me to press criminal charges against Ethan for intentional injury. I refused, at least for the time being. Instead, I told him to focus on finalizing the divorce. If he failed to cooperate, then I would add this as further evidence. The agony of treatment pulled me out of my memories. The doctor looked at my hand with regret. "If you had come just 1 hour earlier, it wouldn't have been this bad. Such a pity." I smiled faintly. My face pale, but my heart calm. "It's fine. Think of it as freedom. Freedom from all those sleepless nights sketching blueprints for his career. Freedom from pricking my bloodied fingers over and over just to make the sachets that helped him sleep. Freedom at last, from all those years trailing behind him, waiting for him to finally turn back." The doctor prescribed me a few types of nerve recovery medicine, then offered unexpected gratitude. "Ms. Carter, thank you. The herbal remedy for insomnia you provided has passed clinical trials and is now being used in every hospital in the city. On behalf of the hospital, I thank you once again. These results are documented in our data. Mr. Lawson's insomnia was something no hospital could cure. Only your remedy allowed him to sleep. After years of adjustments, the treatment's effectiveness was undeniable. As I left the rehabilitation ward, I unexpectedly ran into Sarah Moore. Her sharp high heels struck the floor, click, clack, click, clack, until she stopped in front of me, her eyes full of scorn and mockery. "Emily Carter, you're like a parasite. Wherever we go, you're there too. Can't you let go?" Yes, wherever Sarah Moore appeared, Ethan Lawson was always close behind. Since the day she returned to the States, the two of them had barely known what it meant to keep their distance. I had no wish to see Ethan, much less to watch the two of them tangled together like some cheap springtime wildlife documentary. Just as I turned to leave, Ethan blocked my path, his voice full of irritation and disdain. "Are you following me?" It wasn't entirely unreasonable for him to think so. From high school through college, I had followed him for 7 years. If it had been me, perhaps I would have misunderstood too. "Ethan, narcissism is an illness, you should get it treated," I said coldly, stuffing the hospital report into my bag and trying to walk past. But as I moved by, he suddenly seized my wrist, his grip so tight it felt like he wanted to crush my bones. The sudden pain twisted my face. "Let go." I clenched my teeth, forcing each word out. For 7 years, I had always been soft with him. Even when angry, all I showed was quiet grievance. Seeing the pallor drain my face, he finally loosened his grip. His eyes flickered with a mix of worry and suspicion. "What were you doing at the hospital? Are you sick?" "I'll be back in a few days, you don't need to monitor me so closely. And stop pretending. That pitiful look of yours, it's so fake." So that was it. In his eyes, every time I accidentally ran into him, I was deliberately approaching. Every time I appeared weak, I was putting on an act. Even my medical visit, to him, was just a performance. When disappointment reaches its deepest point, there's no fight left to give. I looked at him with an empty expression, my voice flat and detached. "Oh, right. Believe whatever you want. Just sign the divorce papers quickly, so I can step aside for the two of you." Ethan Lawson finally snapped, shouting in anger. "Emily Carter. Keep being this unreasonable, and you'll waste the last chance I'm giving you." I cast him a cold glance. "Thanks, but no thanks." And then I walked away without the slightest hesitation. The sharp pain radiating from my wrist spread in waves, hitting my nerves, yet even standing before the man I had loved for 7 years, I remained perfectly clear-headed. Ethan Lawson seemed about to chase after me to say something, but Sarah Moore tugged on his arm. "Ethan, I already asked someone at the hospital earlier about a new remedy for insomnia," she said sweetly, clinging to him. "You haven't been sleeping well lately, let's try it together." In the middle of the hospital crowd, Ethan lowered his head and stared at the prescription slip, one he knew far too well. He stood frozen for a long time, unmoving. To help him expand his business empire, I had built up my own network of connections, many of whom I still kept in touch with. Now that I could no longer hold a paintbrush, I decided to redirect my focus toward business. After handing in my resignation, I set out on a survey trip to Z County. During that time, Ethan's number lit up my phone again and again. I couldn't help but wonder, this was the same man who once claimed he was too busy to answer a single text from me, and now he had all the time in the world to call endlessly for no reason. Before blocking him completely, I picked up one last time. His voice came through with a trace of static, followed by his tone, half surprised, half relieved. "Are you still mad? The sachet's finished. Make me a new one." I let out a bitter laugh. "It's just a sachet. If you can't buy one, have Sarah make it for you. Isn't an entire herb farm enough? Emily, can you stop being sarcastic? That's all in the past. Can't you let it go? What exactly do you want me to do to make you satisfied?" I didn't even feel like arguing anymore. Every time there was a problem, he never faced it directly, he always tried to measure and compensate with material things. In his eyes, as long as I received some kind of benefit, I was supposed to obediently forgive and never bring it up again. I laughed bitterly. Ethan Lawson, not everything in this world can be solved with money. That camphor tree kept you alive for 7 years. Even a dog raised for 7 years would know gratitude. And yet, you treated it like it never mattered. He fell silent for a moment, like a storm gathering. Emily Carter, watch your tone when you talk to me. I ignored his anger, my voice sounding more like I was speaking to myself. Ethan, I stayed by your side for 7 years. And that day, you still chose to stand with her. In your eyes, what am I, really? My calm words seemed to unsettle him. His voice wavered slightly, betraying a hint of panic. You're my wife. That day I lost my temper. Just come home, and I'll let this slide. You running away this time, I'll forgive it too. Let's call it even. I let out a laugh, cold and hollow. Even. So what, Emily, can you erase the love between us just like that? His patience snapped completely. Emily Carter, maybe you've lived in comfort for too long. You need to suffer a little to remember your place. Without me, you are nothing. You dare ask for a divorce? On what grounds? If you really go through with it, I guarantee within a month you'll be begging me to remarry you. I deliberately let out a cold laugh, then hung up and blocked his number. Ethan Lawson's confidence came from the fact that my design patents still held tremendous weight in the market. But destroying him was actually simple. In a cafe in Z City, I accepted my senior's proposal to transfer all my latest designs and patents to him. When I returned, I packed my bags and moved into a rented apartment. It wasn't big, but living there was far more comfortable than at the Lawson estate. Just as I was about to head out, I saw Ethan standing at the door. A few days without seeing him, and the once elegant, handsome man was already shadowed with stubble. Emily Carter, what the hell have you done? Why did the company just receive a lawsuit from Z City? His voice burned with both anger and suspicion. The claim is patent infringement, and those works were all created by you. I smirked. Weren't you the one so confident I'd regret leaving? Then wait and see. If you don't want to lose more, sign the divorce papers now. When will you learn to be reasonable? Stop letting jealousy blind you. Do you even know how much trouble you've caused Sarah? You'll have countless works in the future. Why cling so desperately to these few? His eyes were bloodshot, storms of fury gathering beneath them. At that moment, his phone rang sharply. He answered, putting it on speaker. His assistant's voice came from the other end. Mr. Lawson, I looked into the matter from when Mrs. Lawson went to the hospital. Ethan glanced at me, eyes dark and unreadable. Mechanical trauma caused nerve rupture. After surgery, she's been undergoing physical therapy. Her first hospital visit was the same night as the family banquet. What did you say? His fingers clenched the phone so hard they turned white. His expression flickered, shock, then doubt. To me, the man looked both pitiful and laughable. Even now, he still suspected I had colluded with the doctors to fabricate a story. Ethan's voice dropped lower. We'll put this aside for now. Once I investigate thoroughly, I'll compensate you. For now, deal with that other matter first. Later, I'll treat you well. But the promises of men can sometimes be more absurd than ghost stories told on a summer night. Whoever believes them deserves to be fooled. I pulled my jacket tighter around me, crossing my arms as I stared directly at the man before me, questioning my own judgment for ever choosing him. A year ago, Sarah Moore returned from overseas and joined Ethan's company as his personal assistant. Afraid I would oppose it, the two of them moved so quickly that in the blink of an eye, I was pushed aside, and all the achievements I had built were handed over to Sarah. It was only for the company's good, Ethan had told me. Sarah has years of international experience. With her help, the company can rise to a higher level. You've worked hard for years already, now it's time for you to enjoy life as Mrs. Lawson, just as I promised. Back then, I had gone numb, choking on the lump in my throat until I could barely breathe. Ethan Lawson's calculations were precise. When he needed me, I was indispensable. When he didn't, I was disposable. And now, he was trying to pull the same trick again. Wait until I cleaned up his mess, then casually kick me out of his life. I let out a cold smile. Sarah Moore is a top international graduate. If even she can't resolve a copyright infringement case, what could I possibly do? Besides, I'm just a housewife now. I know nothing about corporate management. That was the very line Ethan always used to shut me out whenever he and Sarah discussed company business. Now, I returned it word for word. Emily, Ethan's voice softened, almost pleading. Help me this time. You poured your heart into this company too. Can you really watch it go down like this? If you help me through this crisis, I'll agree to whatever you want. He was still trying to use my feelings as a bargaining chip, paving the road for Sarah. But my feelings for him had long since died, buried with the withered camphor tree. On the other end of the line, it seemed Sarah had snatched the phone from the assistant. Her voice was hurried, even carrying a rare trace of humility. Emily, I've offended you before. Please forgive me. You love Ethan so much, you wouldn't want to see him stuck in such a difficult position, right? Back then, in order to secure Sarah's place in the company, Ethan had forced me to hand over all my designs. Not only did she steal my work, she brazenly replaced my name with hers. Ethan knew the truth, yet he never stopped her, not even with a single harsh word. The two of them reveled in their stolen triumph, never realizing those designs contained patent details that only my senior had legal rights to use. And the only person granted authorization was me. When my senior learned what I had suffered, he was furious on my behalf. He gathered all the evidence and filed the lawsuit in court. If Sarah Moore wanted to avoid prison, she would be forced to admit she had stolen my work. What they once flaunted as their greatest pride had now turned into a burning coal in their hands. If I forgave so easily, how could I ever face my senior again? Sorry, I said coldly. There's nothing I can do. Hearing my words, Ethan Lawson's expression shifted. Emily, now isn't the time for you to be stubborn. If you don't help, we'll be in serious trouble. And Sarah, she'll be dragged down too. She's innocent. I let out a cold laugh. Was I the one who forced her to use my work? Was I the one who made her replace my name with hers? And now, when it's a copyright infringement case, you expect me to take the fall? What were they in their past lives, computers? Their calculations were so precise it was almost comical. Ethan froze for 2 seconds, then inhaled deeply, as if steeling himself. Emily Carter, you created this work. If Sarah gets into trouble, don't think you can wash your hands of it. I almost admired his blind confidence. Maybe I had put him on too high a pedestal once, and now he truly believed he had the right to say such things. Mr. Lawson, didn't you say before that all design achievements of employees belonged to the company, and had nothing to do with any designer who resigned? Funny, how convenient your logic changes. Ethan choked on his words, then managed. Emily, I know you're still angry, but you need to see the bigger picture. Get through this, and I'll take you to Bali. I'll make it up to you properly. The same old tactic, slap with one hand, bribe with the other. Bali, the very place I had wanted to spend our honeymoon a year ago. I had sent Ethan the entire plan. He claimed he was on a business trip, yet instead took Sarah Moore along, enjoying the full 7 days using my itinerary. For 7 days straight, Sarah's social media was filled with their pictures flaunting their intimacy. I exhaled softly. Divorce. I'll help you. If I were accused of copyright infringement, all of the company's assets would be frozen. I couldn't let that jeopardize my financial rights after the divorce. But Ethan's expression wasn't relieved as I expected. Instead, his face grew darker. Emily, don't be reckless. You've been out of the industry for a while, this won't affect you. But Sarah is different. She's at a critical stage in her career. If something happens, her whole future will collapse. my dear husband. Even with his own empire on fire, every word out of his mouth was still for his secretary. Truly, Ethan Lawson was a good boss. He ruined my hands for her, and now he wanted to shove the blame onto me for her sake. Maybe in a past life, I committed some unforgivable sin to deserve meeting this man. Suddenly, Ethan seemed to realize something, and his face turned white. Your hand, is it really injured? Talking to him was a waste of energy. Every conversation left me physically and emotionally exhausted. When he saw me turn to leave, panic flickered across his face and he rushed to block my path. Emily, let's go home and talk. There must be some misunderstanding between us. Once we clear it up, we can move forward together, live well again, okay? If it had been the old me, just hearing him coax me like that, I might have forgiven him, even volunteered to help solve his crisis. But now, the constant numbness in my hand reminded me just how ruthless this man had been. Save your strength, Ethan. There's no home left between us, no future. You're free to chase whatever happiness you want. From the moment he decided to push me out and make me take the fall, our love had ended. After saying that, I walked away. Behind me, Ethan Lawson stood motionless for a long time before clutching his chest, slowly sinking down, unable to get back up. In the following days, I didn't see him at all. Word spread that he and Sarah Moore were fighting constantly over the copyright lawsuit. Even so, every day he still had flowers and fruit delivered to my apartment. I refused them all. When refusal wasn't possible, I told the couriers to do whatever they wanted with them. Downstairs, I could always spot his car parked somewhere nearby. He stood there like a statue, not daring to disturb me, but never willing to leave either. To avoid prison, Ethan finally brought his girlfriend to personally apologize, offering compensation worth half the company's capital just to settle the case. My senior called and teased me, that amount is enough to fund your wedding, you know. Still not satisfied? Honestly, you shouldn't have forgiven those two so easily. He was still indignant. If you hadn't given up the chance to go abroad years ago, Ethan Lawson wouldn't be where he is today. And that bastard still dared to betray you. I smiled faintly, but there was a sigh hidden in my lips. Once, Ethan and I truly loved each other, so much that I gave up everything for him. But after a few years, everything had changed. He had grown accustomed to my sacrifices, and equally accustomed to ignoring my pain. The man who once swore he loved me now only existed in memory. I accepted my senior's invitation to move to Chicago next month, restarting in the business field. Before that, he pushed me into brutal training sessions in market strategy, mentoring me personally. One night, right after finishing a video call with him, a knock sounded at my door. I opened it to find Ethan standing there, reeking of alcohol, his eyes surging with emotions I could no longer name. Emily, when will you finally come home? I've already fired Sarah from the company. I swear there will never be any connection with her again. I still love you. Can you give me one more chance? I'll make it up to you, I promise. In truth, I had already heard rumors about Sarah Moore. After Ethan and I began the divorce proceedings, she became even more reckless, so desperate for advancement that she tried to throw herself at him right in the office. The story went that she showed up in nothing but lingerie, lunging at him the moment he opened the door, only for a major client and a group of smaller partners standing behind to witness the entire scene in stunned silence. Right then and there, Ethan Lawson threw Sarah Moore out in front of everyone. The scandal instantly spread throughout the company, with someone even snapping photos and posting them online. From that day forward, Sarah never appeared at the company again. But the damage was already done. The major client terminated their partnership, and the ripple effect led to a wave of other companies canceling contracts as well. I found Ethan slumped outside my place, his voice carrying a strange, almost pitiful whine. Emily, my head hurts so much. When he lifted his face, his eyes were rimmed red, and there was even a faint trace of tears. Could you make me a sachet? I haven't been able to sleep for days. I frowned slightly. In that herb farm of yours, you can grab any camphor tree and sleep just fine. Why would it have to be in a sachet? Mr. Lawson, your health seems awfully fragile. His eyes darted away. Maybe it has to be from that tree. I looked at him deeply before turning to leave. He trailed after me, and when I stopped at the gate of my old house, his eyes lit up with hope. Emily, I knew it. You can't really ignore my health. But my face remained expressionless. Inside, everything in the house was the same as the night of that fateful family banquet. When Ethan saw the sachets swaying in the breeze from the little rooftop, his face softened into a warm smile. All the discarded sachets had been collected and hung up together, what he called proof of my love for him. But over time, their colors had faded and stained, just like my feelings for him, worn thin, weathered away to nothing. Ethan stood in the yard, staring at the withered camphor tree, fear clouding his eyes. My voice came out hoarse but steady. Didn't you want another sachet? Bring this tree back to life first. Why has it ended up like this? I didn't care about his panic. Why not? Mr. Lawson, hot water isn't the only thing that produces smoke, sulfuric acid does too. I'm sure you understand the chemistry behind that. My mocking words struck him like thunder, leaving him stunned, speechless. Do you still think I wanted a divorce just because of a tree? Ethan lowered his head in silence. After a long pause, I heard the muffled sound of his sobs, choked and suppressed. 7 years of devotion, and in the end, on the night of that family banquet, all I received was his cold line, "You agreed on your own. I never forced you." He wasn't worth forgiving. And I would never choose to forgive him, not for the camphor tree, and not for myself. An ungrateful man deserves nothing but a life of torment. Leaving those words behind, I turned and walked away. From that day on, Ethan Lawson disappeared from my life. 2 weeks later, I received a strange call. On the other end, his friend's voice was rushed and anxious. "Hello? Are you Mrs. Lawson? Ethan's had too much to drink. Please come get him. He refuses to go home, keeps repeating your name, saying he has to wait for you." The phone in my hand trembled slightly, and an old memory from a year ago flashed through my mind. That time, too, I had gotten a call saying he was drunk. I rushed into a cab to fetch him. But when I opened the door, what I saw was Ethan resting his head on Sarah Moore's lap, holding her hand tightly as he kissed her again and again. The scene was so beautiful it stabbed me in the eyes, sharp and merciless, blurring them with tears. Even now, I still remember the words he flung at me that night. "What are you doing here? Did you come to catch me cheating? Or to interfere in my love with Sarah? I don't need you. Don't show up again unless it's absolutely necessary." Back to the present, his friend's voice pulled me out of silence. "Mrs. Lawson? Are you still there?" "Yes," I answered flatly. "Ethan and I are getting divorced. Call Sarah Moore instead." I hung up, set my phone down, and slept peacefully through the night. The next day, at my follow-up appointment in the hospital, I saw a nurse supporting Ethan as he walked slowly down the hallway. He wore patient clothes, his face pale, drained of all color. When his eyes met mine, he froze for a second, then stumbled toward me. "Emily," he called my name. I didn't respond. The nurse beside him spoke instead. "Are you his family? Last night he drank so much he went into shock." By the time we brought him in, his face was already white as a sheet. "Please make sure he doesn't drink like that again, it's dangerous." Ethan looked flustered, his voice breaking. "I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, it's only memories of us. The only way to numb myself is with alcohol." I stared at him, my face blank. Seeing that I hadn't walked away yet, his eyes flickered with hope. "You came to see me, right?" "No." My answer made his gaze darken instantly. Panic surged in his voice as he tried to explain, trembling with urgency. "Emily, I've been thinking seriously about us. From the very beginning, it was my fault. In this marriage, I never gave you respect, never gave you security. I stayed entangled with Sarah Moore, and even when you were hurting, I hurt you more. I know I was wrong. I truly regret it." His voice cracked, tears falling as he pleaded. "But Emily, we've been married for 7 years. I don't want to let you go. I promise I'll never make you cry again. Please, give me another chance." His words of repentance came one after another, his voice broken with sorrow. Even the nurse beside him was moved, her eyes red as she looked at me, as if urging me to forgive him. From beginning to end, I only looked at him with cold detachment, my voice calm in the way only a heart completely dead can be. "There's no chance anymore, Ethan Lawson. None at all. Emily, please." Ethan grew so agitated he coughed up a mouthful of blood, looking utterly wretched. But seeing him like this stirred no worry, no pity in me, only indifference. During the days I endured nerve surgery and the agony of knowing I might never hold a paintbrush again, he never once cared. When I was undergoing rehabilitation, we met by chance, and he accused me of following him, even hurting my half-healed wrist again. And now, with just a few flimsy words, he wanted me to turn back? What a joke. Ethan, if I had known being with you would cost me this much, I never would have saved you that day. With that, I left him behind. His face turned ashen as another mouthful of blood spilled from his lips before he collapsed to the floor. The hospital corridor erupted with the urgent shouts of doctors and nurses rushing to his side. I spared only a glance before continuing to walk away without stopping. Perhaps, at last, Ethan realized my heart could never be salvaged again. He didn't wait for court. He signed the divorce papers himself. Assets were split evenly, including company shares. The last time I saw him was at the Civil Affairs office, when I received the divorce certificate. "Emily, do you really not have a shred of feeling for me left?" he asked. I stayed silent for a moment, then simply nodded. I had no desire to waste even an ounce of energy clinging to a marriage that existed only in name. From now on, I would live for myself. Stepping out of the office, my senior's car was already waiting by the door. He stood there in a black checkered suit, his faint smile immediately drawing every gaze. Placing a bouquet into my hands, he said softly, "Come on. Let me take you to the airport." I accepted and slipped naturally into the passenger seat. In the rearview mirror, Ethan's figure remained frozen on the spot, as if turned to stone. For once, I felt a rare rush of sweet revenge. He snapped out of it a moment later, almost crazed, pounding on the car window. "Emily! Where are you going?" My senior calmly stopped the car, rolled down the window, and smiled, a smile that never reached his eyes. "We're flying to the islands to register our marriage. You'll be invited to the wedding." Ethan staggered, his steps faltering, his face carved with despair. Inside the car, I laughed softly. "Senior, you really went to a lot of trouble to play this role with me." He smiled back, tossing a small box into my hands. "If we're going to act, let's act properly. I always mean what I say." I opened it. Inside lay a sparkling diamond ring. "I've wanted to pursue you for a long time. The only pity was that back then, your eyes were filled only with that worthless man." The flight's at 5 p.m. today. First, we'll head to the islands to register our marriage, then to Germany for your nerve surgery, and finally to Hawaii for our honeymoon. Any objections? I froze for a moment. Why do I feel like I've fallen right into your trap? My senior laughed. Silly girl, I love you. That's the end of the story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much.